thumb. 1934, the island prison left to die. What makes an island, once thriving with life and progress, disappear so suddenly? What happened to Hashima Island, which for decades was home to thousands of people? And how did a city built to be an industrial powerhouse end up becoming one of the most mysterious ghost cities in the world? Hashima, or as it's known, Hashima Island, is more than just an abandoned island. It's an enigma, a time capsule that holds secrets still puzzling the curious and researchers alike. Located just 15 kilometers from the city of Nagasaki, Japan, the small island of only 6.3 hectares was, for much of the 20th century, a central hub for industrial activity. Between 1959 and 1974, it had one of the highest population densities in the world, with over 5,000 people living in a very limited space under often harsh conditions. But then, in a matter of years, everything changed. A city that once thrived, full of life and energy, simply vanished, left in ruins with its concrete buildings rusting and a history buried under the mystery of its abandonment. The question that lingers in the minds of all who visit or hear about Hashima is, why was such a vibrant and bustling city abandoned so abruptly? To understand what happened to Hashima, we must go back in time to its peak. When coal mining intensified in the 1940s and 1950s, Hashima became a key player in Japan's Industrial Revolution. Its population exploded, and the island became equipped with modern infrastructure for the time, concrete buildings, schools, markets, and even a cinema. For many, Hashima represented the future of industrialization, but for others, its existence was marked by serious challenges. So, what happened? What caused the sudden collapse of this vibrant, bustling city? The true story of Hashima goes beyond mere economic decline. It involves mysteries, tragedies, and a series of events that led to this eerie abandonment. But the full answer, well, that still eludes us. For those curious about what really happened, we're diving deeper into the secrets of this ghost island. Keep watching, because what's coming next is even more astonishing. If you're intrigued by this mystery, don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on what happened to Hashima Island. And if you're enjoying this journey, hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating stories like this one. Hashima Island wasn't always a ghost town. Once it was a thriving industrial powerhouse. At the heart of its rise was coal. In the early 20th century, Japan's rapid industrialization demanded vast amounts of energy, and coal was the backbone of this transformation. It was here, on the small, rocky island of Hashima, that one of the world's most efficient coal mining operations was born. But how did an island of barely 6.3 hectares transform into a bustling, self-contained city? The story begins in 1887, when the island was first used for coal mining by the Mitsubishi Corporation. Over the years, Hashima's coal mine expanded, and so did its population. By the mid-1900s, the demand for coal surged, and the island became a key player in Japan's Industrial Revolution. The island's population skyrocketed as workers flocked to Hashima, searching for steady employment in the thriving coal mines. By 1959, Hashima was home to more than 5,000 people, making it one of the most densely populated places on Earth at the time. The island was like a small city, complete with towering concrete buildings, schools, markets, and even a movie theater. Residents lived in small, cramped apartments stacked on top of each other with little privacy, but they were proud to be part of the island's industrial boom. The buildings, although stark and utilitarian, symbolized progress and prosperity. Life on Hashima wasn't for the faint-hearted, though. The miners worked in grueling conditions, often enduring long hours in dangerous underground tunnels. The island was not only isolated physically, but it was also somewhat detached from the rest of the world. For decades, the people of Hashima lived and worked in a tight-knit, industrial society that thrived despite the harshness of its environment. Yet, something was always lurking beneath the surface, an impending doom that no one seemed to foresee. But how did this thriving industrial empire, this bustling city, fall into ruin? What set off the chain of events that would eventually turn Hashima into the ghostly island we see today? To answer that, we must delve deeper into the forces at play, economic, environmental, and even political, that led to the rapid decline of Hashima. Stay with us as we explore what happened to Hashima and why this bustling island city became a haunting reminder of Japan's industrial past. Hashima Island reached its peak during the mid-20th century, when it was not just a coal mining operation, but a fully self-sustaining community. The island had everything. Its residents needed schools, markets, apartments, and even recreational facilities. Despite its small size, Hashima was a microcosm of industrial life, offering a unique glimpse into a society that existed in isolation, yet boasted a thriving economy. The buildings, primarily made of concrete, were densely packed together, towering over the island like grim sentinels. There was little room for personal space, but in the bustling rush of industrialization, the people made do. Residents lived in high-rise apartment blocks, some of which were so cramped that entire families had to share small rooms. But this was the price of progress, and the workers and their families accepted it in exchange for the opportunity to be part of something bigger and industrial marvel. Despite the harsh living conditions, life on Hashima was not without its moments of joy. The island had its own community spirit, with people celebrating festivals, enjoying the rare moments of leisure, and even watching films in the Islandji small movie theater. Yet, underneath this veneer of normalcy, there were constant reminders of the island's industrial nature. The sounds of machinery, the laborers working around the clock in the coal mines, and the ever-present smell of soot in the air. Hashima was a place where work and life were intertwined, in a way that was both grueling and necessary for survival. But there was a darker side to life on Hashima. The coal mining operations were incredibly dangerous, with many workers suffering from harsh conditions. The mines were prone to accidents, and workers faced the constant threat of gas explosions, cabins, and the toll of working in deep, dark tunnels for long hours. Despite these risks, the promise of steady work brought people from all over Japan to the island. By the late 1960s, Hashima reached its peak. It was a bustling, self-sufficient island city, packed with workers and their families. But the question that lingered was, for how long could it sustain this pace? The cracks in Hashima's seemingly perfect facade were beginning to show. Its isolation, combined with the declining coal industry, would soon push the island to the brink of collapse. So, what led to the downfall of this thriving community? How did a place that once symbolized industrial success turn into a decaying monument of abandonment? The answers lie in the next chapter of Hashima's story, a chapter filled with sudden, unexpected changes that would change the fate of the island forever. In the late 1960s, just as Hashima was at its peak, an unforeseen collapse began to unfold. The island that once thrived, with its dense population and bustling industry, would soon be left desolate and abandoned. But what caused this sudden downfall? The answer, like many mysteries of history, is complex and rooted in a series of events that intertwined economic decline, technological change, and environmental factors. The primary cause of Hashima's collapse can be traced back to the very resource that once made it prosper: coal. By the late 1960s, Japan's coal industry was in decline. New, more efficient forms of energy production such as oil and natural gas began to replace coal as the dominant energy source. As demand for coal dropped, the mines on Hashima Island started to lose their profitability. The Mitsubishi Corporation, which had controlled the island's coal mining operations, found itself facing mounting financial losses. But the island's isolation was another major factor in its downfall. As the coal industry began to decline, Hashima was unable to adapt quickly enough to the changing economic landscape. The cost of maintaining the island's infrastructure became too high, especially given the diminishing returns from coal mining. The once prosperous island city became increasingly difficult to sustain. As the mines started to close, the workforce that had once sustained the island began to dwindle. The population, which had peaked at over 5,000 people, began to fall rapidly. Families were forced to leave as there was no longer enough work to sustain them. By 1974, the last remaining residents were evacuated, and Hashima Island was officially abandoned. But even after the people left, the island continued to stand as a ghostly reminder of what had once been. The buildings, still standing despite years of neglect, began to decay. Nature slowly reclaimed the island, but Hashima's haunting, desolate state remained a testament to its once thriving existence. The questions that remain, however, are what might have happened had Hashima adapted to the changing world of the 1970s. Could it have survived if it had diversified its economy, or was its fate sealed by the very forces that made it so prosperous in the first place? These questions continue to fuel the mystery of Hashima, and it's in exploring the darker, hidden truths behind its collapse that we begin to understand the full tragedy of the island. Why Hashima is often remembered for its industrial might and the bustling life of its workers. There is a much darker, less talked about side to the island's history, one that is tied to exploitation, forced labor, and inhumane conditions. Beneath the concrete walls and towering buildings, Hashima's workers, particularly those who came from Korea and China during World War II, endured some of the harshest conditions ever seen in industrial history. During the war, Japan's need for coal intensified, and Hashima Island became a critical part of the nation's war effort. To meet the demands of the coal mines, Mitsubishi and other companies turned to forced labor. Thousands of Koreans and Chinese were brought to Hashima under cruel and deceptive conditions. Many were taken against their will or forcibly conscripted by the Japanese government as part of their war strategy. They were brought to the island with little to no understanding of the hellish conditions that awaited them. Life on Hashima was grueling, with long hours in the coal mines, where workers had to endure the intense heat, dangerous mining conditions, and constant threat of explosions. The work was exhausting, and the food was scarce. Workers lived in overcrowded, unsanitary conditions. The buildings they inhabited were poorly ventilated, dark, and damp. Disease spread quickly, and many workers fell ill due to the harsh conditions. The living quarters were cramped, with families living in tiny apartments that barely provided enough space to sleep, let alone live. The entire island was designed to serve the mining operations, and there was little concern for the well-being of the people who made it function. Life expectancy for miners was incredibly low, with many dying young from accidents, diseases, or the toll of constant labor. The forced laborers were subjected to physical abuse and psychological torment. They were often treated as little more than tools to extract coal, their lives worth little in the eyes of their captors. Many of these workers were forced to remain on the island long after the war ended, enduring further hardship as the island's fate became more uncertain. This dark history of Hashima remains one of its most painful chapters, a reminder of the human cost of industrialization and the extreme lengths to which those in power were willing to go to fuel their economies. While the island is often celebrated for its industrial achievements, we must also acknowledge the suffering of those who were exploited in its name. As the years go by, the truth about Hashima's darker side continues to emerge, shedding light on a history that was long buried beneath the island's impressive concrete structures. Hashima's legacy is as much about the exploitation and suffering of its workers as it is about the industrial triumphs that once made it so powerful. After the last residents left in 1974, Hashima Island was left to the elements, abandoned and forgotten by most of the world. The once thriving industrial hub, now a desolate and eerie ghost town, slowly began to fade into obscurity. For decades, the island was left in a state of decay, its buildings and structures slowly crumbling under the relentless assault of time and nature. Nature, however, began to reclaim the land. The concrete and steel that once symbolized progress and industry became overgrown with vegetation. As trees and shrubs took root in the cracks of the island's abandoned buildings, the once busy city streets now lay silent, save for the occasional rustle of wind through the dilapidated structures. Hashima, once a beacon of industrial achievement, had become a haunting relic of the past, a city frozen in time. But despite its abandonment, Hashima didn't fade into complete obscurity. The island, with its eerie atmosphere and haunting beauty, eventually caught the attention of adventurers and photographers seeking to document its state of decay. By the 1990s, Hashima had become a popular spot for urban explorers who risked their lives to venture onto the island and capture its haunting remains. Their photographs of the crumbling buildings, the remnants of daily life, and the empty streets began to circulate online, sparking curiosity and fascination around the world. In 2009, the Japanese government took notice of Hashima's growing reputation as an eerie tourist attraction, and they decided to open the island to the public for guided tours. Since then, thousands of visitors have made the journey to Hashima Island, marveling at its desolate beauty and eerie atmosphere. The island's ruins have become a symbol of industrial decline and the passage of time, as well as a poignant reminder of the workers who once toiled there. Despite the growing interest in Hashima, the island remains a place shrouded in mystery. The exact reasons for its abandonment and the darker chapters of its history remain subjects of speculation and intrigue. As visitors walk among the ruins, they are confronted with a city that has been forgotten by most, but whose haunting legacy still lingers in the air. The question that lingers is What will become of Hashima in the future? Will it continue to stand as a symbol of Japan's industrial past, or will it eventually succumb to the ravages of time, completely reclaimed by nature? Hashima Island, with its haunting, desolate landscape, has become much more than just a city abandoned to time. It stands as a symbol of isolation, industrialization, and the human cost of progress. While the island's physical ruins are fascinating to explore, its deeper significance lies in the lessons it holds about the rapid pace of industrial growth and its consequences. As visitors step onto the island, they are immediately confronted by the stark contrast between the human structures of the past and the uncontrollable power of nature. The towering concrete buildings, now crumbling and overgrown, stand as a testament to the short-lived triumph of industrialism. What was once a thriving city is now a decaying shell, empty of life and vibrancy, leaving behind only remnants of its former glory. Hashima's legacy also represents the darker side of the Industrial Revolution, the exploitation of workers, the environmental toll of mining, and the eventual collapse of an entire community that relied on an unsustainable industry. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked progress and the importance of recognizing the cost of human labor and environmental damage. The island's solitude and isolation add to its eerie allure. It exists in a state of perpetual abandonment, cut off from the mainland by the sea and untouched by the world's fast-paced development. This isolation has turned Hashima into a metaphor for the forgotten and the forsaken, whether that be the workers who lived and died there, the environmental degradation caused by the mining operations, or the rapid rise and fall of industrial cities across the globe. For many, visiting Hashima is a way of paying respects to the past, the sacrifices made by the workers and the devastating effects of rapid industrialization. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about progress and the impact it has on both people and the environment. The island's legacy isn't just about the rise and fall of an industrial empire. It's about the stories of those who were part of it, and the lingering questions that still remain unanswered. As time goes on, Hashima Island will continue to stand as a monument to isolation, both physically and metaphorically. The island may be abandoned, but its legacy, rich with lessons about human ambition, exploitation, and the cost of industrial progress, remains. Hashima Island's abandonment has given rise to numerous myths, rumors, and speculative stories that continue to fuel its mysterious allure. From ghost stories to conspiracy theories, the island has become a canvas for the imagination of those who seek to explain its rapid collapse and eerie emptiness. But what is the truth behind these tales, and how much of Hashima's story has been obscured by myth? One of the most persistent legends surrounding Hashima involves the idea that the island was abandoned due to a curse. According to local folklore, the harsh conditions faced by the workers, combined with the secrecy surrounding the island's operations during the war, led to a spiritual reckoning. Some believe that the spirits of the miners, especially those who died under mysterious or tragic circumstances, still haunt the island, seeking revenge for their suffering. These stories are fueled by the eerie silence that now envelops the abandoned buildings, with visitors often reporting a sense of unease when walking through the ruins. Another popular theory ties Hashima's downfall to dark wartime secrets. The island's role in the forced labor program during World War II, where Korean and Chinese workers were brought to the island under brutal conditions, has sparked numerous conspiracy theories. Some suggest that the island's abandonment was part of a larger cover-up by the Japanese government, designed to erase the evidence of wartime atrocities. While there is no conclusive proof of such a cover-up, the island's isolation and the secrecy surrounding its operations certainly provide fertile ground for these theories to thrive. In addition to these theories, Hashima has also become the subject of urban legends about hidden treasures and lost artifacts. Some believe that valuable coal or even gold was secretly stored on the island, and that the government abandoned the island quickly to prevent thieves from plundering its riches. Others speculate that secret military operations were conducted on Hashima, and that the true reasons for its abandonment are far more sinister than a simple economic collapse. While these myths and legends are fascinating, they also serve as a reminder of how human nature tends to fill in the gaps when confronted with mystery. Hashima's decline may have had entirely rational explanations: economic collapse, technological advancements, and the fall of the coal industry, but the island's aura of isolation, combined with its dark history, invites speculation and storytelling. As with many ghost towns and abandoned places, Hashima's mysteries are as much about the stories we tell ourselves as they are about the truth. The island may be empty now, but the legends that surround it continue to breathe life into its eerie existence. Despite Hashima Island's rapid abandonment and the eerie silence that followed, a few survivors remain who can still recount the haunting days when the island was alive with activity. These individuals, once part of the vibrant community that called Hashima home, now share their stories with the world, providing valuable insights into what life was like on the island, as well as what happened when the population was evacuated in haste. One of the most poignant stories comes from those who worked in the coal mines. Many of the miners and their families had lived on the island for years, and their memories of life in the cramped, concrete buildings are filled with both pride and hardship. These survivors recount the tight-knit community that existed, where everyone knew each other, and every corner of the island had its own distinct character. But as the coal industry began to decline, these once close communities began to fracture. The sense of certainty and purpose that had defined life on Hashima evaporated as the island's economic foundation crumbled beneath it. For some, leaving the island wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. With no work left to sustain them, families were forced to leave, and in many cases, they did so under the shadow of uncertainty. Many survivors remember the suddenness of their departure, as they packed up their lives and left the island with little more than the clothes on their backs. The emotional toll of leaving behind a place that had once been home is still felt by some of those who survived the evacuation. Their memories of Hashima are bittersweet, a mixture of nostalgia for a place that no longer exists and sorrow for the lost opportunities and lives that were left behind. Today, as tourists make their way to the island for guided tours, they walk in the footsteps of those who once called Hashima home. Yet, despite the growing interest in the island's history, Hashima's legacy is still marked by a sense of abandonment and loss. The stories of the survivors serve as a reminder of the human cost of industrialization and the rapid pace at which entire communities can be forgotten. Hashima's legacy is not just in the ruins that remain, but in the people who lived and worked there. The survivors' stories continue to echo through the island's empty streets, keeping alive the memory of a once thriving city that was abandoned far too soon. Hashima Island, with its ghostly ruins and haunting history, offers a powerful lesson about the fragility of human progress and the consequences of rapid industrialization. As we reflect on the island's rise, its collapse, and its eventual abandonment, we are reminded of how quickly things can change and how the pursuit of economic growth can sometimes come at a steep human and environmental costs. The story of Hashima serves as a poignant reminder that industries can rise and fall, cities can be built and then forgotten, and entire communities can be displaced in the blink of an eye. The people who once called Hashima home may have left, but their story still lives on through the ruins and the legends that surround the island. Their experiences offer valuable lessons about resilience, the importance of sustainable growth, and the costs of ignoring the well-being of workers and the environment in the pursuit of profit. In today's world, as we continue to navigate the challenges of urbanization, industrialization, and technological advancement, the story of Hashima reminds us to consider the long-term effects of our actions. It forces us to question whether the progress we make today is truly sustainable for future generations, or whether we are sacrificing too much in the name of economic growth. The island also symbolizes the importance of preserving history, not just the grand, celebrated moments, but also the forgotten stories of those who lived and worked in the shadows of progress. Hashima's history is a reminder that every industrial revolution, every city, and every community has its own hidden stories, and that these stories deserve to be remembered and honored. As we look back on Hashima, we are faced with an opportunity to reflect on the past and consider how we can move forward more consciously and responsibly. The island may be abandoned, but its legacy continues to resonate, urging us to learn from its history and apply those lessons to the challenges we face today. As we wrap up this incredible journey through the rise and fall of Hashima Island, we want to hear from you. What do you think really happened to this mysterious island? Do you believe the legends surrounding its abandonment? Or is there a more practical explanation hidden beneath the surface? If you've enjoyed uncovering the secrets of Hashima, don't forget to leave a like to show your support. It helps us keep bringing you more fascinating stories from the past. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another deep dive into history's most mysterious places. Comment below with your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. What's your theory on the disappearance of Hashima Island? Also, be sure to check out our next video right here on the screen for more hidden histories and unsolved mysteries.